What's good on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm C.
I'm P.
And today we're gonna be reacting to Jordan Peterson.
The importance of comedy.
Yeah, he did an interview. I don't know when he did the interview, but it was recently with Andrew Schulz. I think their channel is called Flagrant channel. Andrew Schulz is a comedian who he does stand-up comedy, but he also does like a podcast. So I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's really funny. We probably gonna in the future do some of his stand-up because it's really funny stuff.
And probably some more reactions on his podcast.
Yeah, especially with this Jordan Peterson reaction.
He watches him like almost all the time. I watch him too, not as much as he does.
Yeah.
We like his comedy. We like his podcast channel. Yeah.
And when he did an interview with Jordan Peterson, we're like, hey man, Jordan Peterson and together, like, come on.
We got it.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
I think, and maybe this is a comedic thing for me, people oftentimes go like, jokes are wrong, or jokes are right, or blah blah blah, or jokes speak about the truth. Jokes aren't truthful, right? We lie all the time. Like, how often is the misdirect something that completely didn't happen, right? Like, the whole point of the joke is the lie. I think Seinfeld actually said that really well. But the feeling within the joke is true. And the problem is a lot of us don't want to acknowledge the feelings that we have. And I think one of the reasons why you've had...
Well, that's what Chapter 3 in Beyond Order is about, right? Don't hide things in the fog. And it's definitely the case that what comedians
Before
do...
he goes into Jordan Peterson, what he does, do you think that you find the joke funnier when it's not really about like how smart the joke is, but how it makes you feel? Like how relatable the joke is? Do you find it funnier like that?
I think it depends on the comedian and how he presents the jokes. Because I've seen both sides. I've seen a comedian tell a joke in an intelligent concept that was also funny and also made you think.
Yeah.
Which I like. And I also see the comedian that just told a joke that was funny and made you have like certain feelings from it. Which is also... So like, I feel like both...
I understand both are funny and they can be funny, but which one do you think like hits you more? Where like, you know,
I think the feelings hit you more, yeah.
That's what he's saying. All right, let's continue. You know, his reference is gonna go into this like intellectual rant. So,
and I think one of the reasons why you've had...
Well, that's what Chapter 3 in Beyond Order is about, right? Don't hide things in the fog. And it's definitely the case that what comedians do often is point to something and say, look, we have that hidden in the fog, and here's what it is. And everyone laughs. It's like, yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that happens a lot. And you use fiction. It's not so much lie, it's fiction, right? And fiction is more than true in some sense, because it's like the average of truth. Look, a great novel is more realistic than life itself, and because who the hell wants to read a novel about how many times you blinked after you woke up this morning, right? If you wrote down every detail, it's just not relevant or interesting. You want to sift through your life and pull out what's importantly true. Yeah. And fiction pulls out what's importantly true about lots of people's lives and amalgamates it together into one story.
Yes.
So it's hyper true. It's more than true. And that's why it's so useful. And when you use fiction on stage, when you use fiction in a performance, you're doing the same thing. You're drawing on this ability. So, for example,
before he goes, do you know what Spit's talking about?
What?
Do you understand what he's talking about? How like, you know, like let's say your favorite characters in like a book or like a show, right? You don't want him to list out like he woke up in bed today, he brushed his teeth, he eats. You're not gonna find that, you know, fun, you know. But he said in the fiction, it's like they put all the important stuff in a condensed form. You know what I mean? So they skip all the fluff.
Well, a great author pulls from their own experiences and puts it into a book. Yeah. It's a difference between a fiction book that has your own experiences in it, but it's totally falsehood. Like it could be about dragons and stuff like that, but the main plot of the story actually has some truth in it.
Yeah, like it's inspired by
versus somebody writing a biography about their life. The biography is more of a snooze fest than the fiction part is. The fiction book
snooze fest
gets you has you think, gets you motivated.
It's funner, it's like more action, and
it also tells a story and makes you feel personally connected to the author, because you kind of get that hidden undertone.
Because you feel more for like the human. You have more in common with the humanity in general than with this person specifically. You know what I mean? Like somebody who lives like in Russia. You have more common with the humanity in general than with the person in Russia. You know what I mean? Like that's a little example. He's gonna give an example too, but that's all kind of
breaking it down.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so useful. And when you use fiction on stage, when you use fiction in a performance, you're doing the same thing. You're drawing on this ability. So, for example, when a little kid plays dad when he's playing house, you say, well, he's imitating his father, but that's not right, because if you watch the child, he doesn't do exactly what he saw his father do that day. What he does instead is he watches his father in many, many situations, and he gets the gist, and then he acts out the gist, just like someone who does an imitation. Comedians do this all the time. They do imitations. And it's not like they do exactly what they saw the person doing. They watch them across lots of situations, and they act or speak like they would in that situation.
Man.
And so it's true, but it isn't an accurate representation of something that actually happened. So it's a very funny form of truth. That doesn't make it trivial. It's more true.
And I think oftentimes when you're dealing with things that these feelings that are more true, right? Let's just talk about these feelings itself. A lot of times now, especially with like the political landscape, it is terrifying for the average person, right, to express a feeling that might be high stakes. And I think this is one of the reasons why you became so addictive, for lack of a better word. And there are other people that are in your same vein where it's like you created these very safe structures to express a feeling that we all had, right? The average person might come out and they might say, I don't even know an example, but I don't think the sky is blue, right? You would have a nuanced, specific way of saying that the sky is blue. I'm probably being confusing here, but you would have a nuanced, specific way of saying it where they wouldn't have to feel like if they went to work the next day, everybody would judge them.
We've spoken out a lot. How John Peterson says something in a way, it's so intellectual that, it's like, I don't know, it's like, so like, you feel like he's telling people what you are feeling, but in a better way that you could. You know what I mean?
And he's also being our voices, because nowadays with society and political stance, like Andrew was saying, we are so afraid to speak our minds and to speak how we're feeling on certain topics, because there's so many people out there that are going to judge us and be like, oh, you're racist, or oh, you're with the left side, and
right side,
you're the anti-feminist, like, so we can't speak, because when we speak, we got all these people yelling at us for speaking. So people like them who speak everything that we're feeling are pretty much our voices, and also make us feel comfortable and to be able to speak. And
to be honest, they take the force for us. Like sticking a lot of stuff on people. But he always says things in a way that he says it better than any of us could actually do it. Because he's an intellectual. He has a PhD. He actually studied it. He's a psychologist. So he knows about how to communicate things. You know what I mean? And in a way to not, just ramble on about it, or to give as much information as is needed, as much info as needed. So yeah. Continue.
I don't think a lot of people have these feelings. The average person, I'm not talking about the extremists, but the average person has a feeling, and it doesn't make them a bad person. But today, depending on what you say, you could be looked that way. And the nuanced
will be almost certainly
100%. And so the nuanced thinkers blew up.
That's why it's so deadly that so many comedians are now uncomfortable to perform.
Yeah.
Comedians are canaries in the coal mine, man. When comedians start censoring themselves, you know something's gone wrong. They're the first line. I think they're out there in front of the artists. That's my sense of popular culture. The first people to go are the comedians, because they're the ones that take risk with speech. That's part of it. And there has to be a spontaneity and a daring. So they're always testing the limits of what's acceptable in speech. And they're almost always doing it in a way that points to uncomfortable truths of one form or another. Things that people won't admit, things that we keep hidden in the dark.
I'm sorry.
It's funny because Patrick O'Neill, Bill Burr, I forgot the other guy's name. Dave Chappelle. I don't know why I forget his name. You realize that all of them, or actually described all of them, like they speak truth that's not acceptable to society. But they make it funny.
Yeah.
And you feel like their joke is about you feeling it. You know, like, oh, then that's relatable. I get that. You know what I mean? Like, I understand why you feel that way.
When he just talked about like the first line of defense and how they're very open on the stage and they can get as much heat as they give out. That reminded me of it's an Amazon Prime TV show. It's called Marvelous Miss Maisel. It takes place back in like the 50s, 60s era. And it's back when they first allowed women comedians to join the stage. And they show how back then they used to pull comedians off the stage and arrest them for saying certain things wrong.
That's crazy.
They show how it was like back then for the comedians. They'd be up there making people laugh but also talking about real issues. But when they cross that line, the police come in and pull them off the stage.
It's funny because now we're going back to that now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's Based off of what he's saying, I had like a flashback to that TV show I used to watch.
It's funny.
If you have Amazon Prime, look up that TV show. It's hilarious and it's very eye-opening now seeing that.
How we're going backwards.
How we're going backwards into that time of era.
That's crazy.
Testing the limits of what's acceptable in speech. And they're almost always doing it in a way that points to uncomfortable truths of one form or another. Things that people won't admit, things that we keep hidden in the dark, the foibles of our leaders. You know, anything that's there but makes people too uncomfortable to talk about. That's exactly what a comedian hones in on.
Institutions, right? We make fun of the institutions. And I think when comedy is best is when those institutions are a little bit oppressive. I think the best comics come from those times. Like, all these comics get upset about like what's happening right now. I'm like, you should be salivating. This is our time. This is when we push back. This is where it's fun, baby.
Right. Well, what would you do without some oppression?
Yes. You need it. We need depression so we don't become sociopaths. We need oppression so we could be great comedians. Like, this, when you could say whatever you want, comedy gets weird. You know those times where like comedy's all like quirky, like I'm gonna have a fucking clown nose and I'm gonna be like super absurdist, like it just means nothing. The second you tell us we can't say something, you get the Carlins, you get the Pryors, you get the Chris Rocks, you get the Chappelles. You know, to me, I think you should be so excited if you're a comedian.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because all of the comedians that we react to, he described them perfectly.
Yeah.
Like Burr, Chappelle. You know, like, geez,
this is where it should be their gold mine. They should be able to zone in on these things. And like Bill Burr says all the time in his skits, it's so quiet in here.
Yeah. The like, audience pulls back like, we are pulling back. Like, not.
Why are you all getting all awkward now? Like,
exactly.
You can't tell me I'm not right.
Like Bill Burr make you like, man, yeah, I got you, Bill Burr. You know, like you understand what he's saying. It's like you wanna say it, but you can't.
So like, I agree with Andrew. Like, this is a time for you comedians to shine. Exactly. Do your thing. Don't be so scared of those people with the loud voices that are coming after you like the little chihuahua at your ankle. Just punt that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, guys. Are you sure it's funny, dude, man? We're gonna react to his like stand-up comedy, and we have to more of these with Jordan Peterson. Yeah,
and more of his podcast with other people.
Yeah.
Like, he talks about very interesting issues, but he also talks about it in a funny way too.
Exactly. So
like, he brings some.
So you never get bored watching it. He's always funny about it.
He brings some of his comedian stage presence into his podcast as well, which I like.
I think that's what makes it the most popular. What makes it popular, because you're doing a podcast, but you're also having. It's like a comedy podcast,
yes, exactly.
but also talking about some real stuff.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And he makes fun of the real stuff that he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's
and he's one of those people that also not only make fun of the real stuff he's talking about, make fun of the people or things that he's talking about, but make fun of himself and his people in the room.
Exactly. You know.
And I love that. I love people that are like humble enough to be able to make fun of themselves and roast their friends. Exactly. You know what I mean?
So just live a little. You know.
Exactly.
But yeah, guys, Andrew Schulz. Tell us what you think about this. Him and how.
His conversation with Jordan Peterson.
Exactly.
And the topic about comedians. Let us know in the comments below. If you've seen Andrew Schulz podcast and you're also a fan, or you have certain Andrew Schulz podcast videos that you want us to react to, or stand-ups of his that you want us to react to, let us know below as well. And like he said, we're going to be reacting to a lot more stuff in the future, so stay tuned, guys. Remember, we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so keep subscribing, keep telling your friends and family.
Yeah, guys, and keep commenting.
Yep.
Liking.
Yep. We love to see your comments below. All right.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.